Hey, what's going on, champs? I'm Aaron Deliosa. Welcome to an Immigrant's Life podcast, my podcast about immigrants and immigration and everything in between. Thank you for listening and downloading the show, and thank you for supporting my dad.
Last week of January, so let's finish with another strong episode, shall we? But before that, I want to thank you for joining me once again. If you're new here, welcome, and I'm glad that you can join us. If you must know, you can reach us on all the social media at An Immigrant's Life. We also have an email address, animmigrantslife@yahoo.com. If you got something to say or complaint, I'd love to hear from you. Let's talk some shit, shall we? And if you have a minute to spare, I'd appreciate it if you could leave a review on the Apple Podcast app and give a 5-star rating. And that goes with Spotify as well. That's a new thing. I didn't even know that like a few weeks ago, but please, it will really help the podcast. Now, let's talk about this week's episode. Our guest this week is one driven individual. And you could also say a lucky son of a gun, because when the heavens granted him opportunities, he took it and ran away with it. You'll find out soon enough. So, without further ado, let's get into the show. Isa, dalawa, tatlo. Today's guest is a business development manager, an adventurer, and a podcaster. The Eagle of Mandaluyong. Everyone, please welcome Lawin Ileto.
Yo, Aaron, thanks for having me. I love the introduction.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate this. This is now I like to say that it's my signature for the podcast. I like creating this colorful and very descriptive introduction to the guests, and I love when they laugh like you did. I love it.
Yeah, it's a nice way to set the mood for the episode. So
thank you. I appreciate it. First of all, before we go anywhere else, I want to thank you for coming on the podcast. I really do appreciate it.
Hey, no problem.
So before we move on again, do you have anything to promote? Go ahead, my man.
Sure. Yeah, so as Aaron mentioned, I also do have my own podcast. It's called Pop Your Cultural Cherry. And it's been like a year since I started it, and I have around 30 episodes, mostly talking about life in Europe. So as I am based in Germany, I talk a lot to other people who are like immigrants in Europe, or maybe Europeans who have been living outside, and kind of like talk about cultural differences, diversity, kind of life hacks in order to better integrate into a society or to a culture. This season, I'm talking more about Germany. So if any of you guys listening are interested in what it's like for an immigrant living in Germany, then do check out my podcast, Pop Your Cultural Cherry.
Awesome. All right. We need to clear up something, because in the introduction, I mentioned that you are the Eagle of Mandaluyong. Do you care explain why?
Right. And actually, I'm going to correct you on this. It's a common... people don't really notice that a lot of Filipinos also get this wrong, that actually hawk.
Lawin means
right.
Hawk. It's hawk,
and Agila
right?
means eagle, correct? So
okay.
I'm actually the hawk of Mandaluyong, if you want to say it that way. But all good, forgiven. You've been living in Canada for a long time, so all is good. Yeah. So it literally, my name is a translation of hawk. The word hawk in English means Lawin in Tagalog, and I don't know, my family has this thing of naming their kids very like Filipino names, which is not very common. So I have a very uncommon name. So if you want to look for me online or something, you probably won't find any other Lawin. Maybe you'll find another one or two other people living in the Philippines with that first name, but it's not a very common name.
Yeah, I love it. Like I told you offline, I'm like, yo, that's your name? That's amazing. Because it's, like I said, you said we're very colonized and we're very westernized, that, it's so rare for me to meet people that their names are Tagalog.
Right.
Is it goes to your cousins too, or only your specific family?
So basically, my mom and my dad were artists. So this is kind of what they studied. They did fine arts, and they're very into like Filipino art and culture as well. And they just thought about naming the kids, especially my dad naming his kids with Filipino names. So my other siblings from my dad all have this kind of like Filipino names.
That's awesome. Anyways, let's focus on you as a person. We mentioned that you're from
Right.
Mandaluyong. Did you grow up in Mandaluyong?
Yeah, pretty much lived there my whole life until I moved out here to Europe. So but yeah, pretty much lived in the like metro region of Manila for pretty much my whole life.
How would you describe your life in the Philippines?
I'd say it's pretty. To some extent, I'd say I was very kind of blessed to be. Of course, first of all, living in metro region and also having a house there from my mom's side. To have a house there makes it very convenient. I was able to go to schools also there. So some of the better schools in the country are also located there. You have access to like nice malls, if you want to put it like that. You're not too far away from like the business districts. So yeah, I'd say I lived a pretty good life. I grew up in a pretty good neighborhood in Mandaluyong. Mandaluyong is like middle of everything, but to some extent also very normal. So I had friends in the street. We play basketball on the street. We play basketball in the neighborhood leagues during summer. So this is my childhood memories. When you hear ice cream carts coming in the afternoon, you go out and buy ice cream. So I'd say like to live there I was very fortunate to live there, but at the same time, to some extent, I also lived a very kind of normal childhood.
Yeah, I mean, you're not, like the 1%ers.
Probably not, yeah.
But then again, if you probably ask what the 1%, I'm like, well, I live normally.
Yeah, exactly. But we didn't live in a super, like a high-end village. Like if you're from a 1%, you'd probably live in a high-end village, drive like a fancy car, or have a couple of cars with a driver. So we didn't have that much privilege. But obviously, as I come from the Philippines, I know that I also lived a privileged life compared to the average Filipino person. So I don't wanna kid myself and think that I'm just an average person. But I was lucky to grow up in the position that I did.
I love it. I love that perspective. You mentioned that your mom and dad separated. Did they separate when you were younger? How old were you?
Oh, I wasn't even one when they separated. So I was like a baby when they decided not to live together anymore. So for me, I think growing up, I just knew my mom as like my parent, or like as my guide. And it's not like I missed having a dad, because like I grew up just with her. So for me, it was like, yeah, this is for me what was normal. It's like you don't miss something that you didn't have,
Yeah, I see your point.
Yeah.
I know you said like, oh, you didn't really miss your dad, but I'm sure there were times in your life where like, yo, I wish I have a dad that could play basketball with me, talk shit to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I guess when it came to like when I got older and you start like trying to figure out women, for example, or just growing up, you don't
Listen,
really
I'm
have
40 years
anybody.
old. I'm trying to still figure them out.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. But yeah, like, I didn't really get any advice about that. Also, when it came to like career, although my dad was also like a painter, so probably he would not have been able to give me any tips on career. But in a traditional sense, like, when we think of a dad, an average dad, he like, like you said, he plays basketball with you. Maybe he gives you little tips on how to sway women and obviously like career advice. So I think, yeah, but I don't know, I ended up here anyway, so it's okay.
Pretty okay. Very Filipino.
Uh,
That's one thing I love about Filipinos. They're so resilient.
oh yeah.
Growing up in a country that is ravaged with poverty, with typhoons. We get 29 typhoons every year.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, it happens the next day. You see pictures, and they're all smiling.
Oh yeah. I remember seeing when was it, typhoon last year or maybe 2 years ago, and there was a compilation of videos from that typhoon, and you see like people with floating, like they had the plastic like a plastic thing with like floating beer bottles, and like they're just drinking during the flood. You see people like on a floating couch, they're like paddling and having fun, and people swimming, playing basketball in the floods and during the typhoon. So it's just like crazy shit. But as you said, like a lot of Filipino people are just very resilient people, so they just go with it, you know.
So I know that you went to school in the Philippines.
Right.
First of all, by the way, this guy went to La Salle University, which is like the number one, like at least top three, easy
Top three.
university in the Philippines. So anyway, what course did you take there?
Right. So as I mentioned, I didn't really have any like career advice when I was like picking what to study. And I had heard from other people that it's quite easy nowadays to find a job in marketing. So I took up marketing management in LaSalle, and just because I knew like some higher batch people who had done the same and had like good careers, so I was like, okay, then I don't know. I was looking at the pamphlet and like I don't really know what I want to be, but this sounds like doable. So I did that and eventually finished it in time.
That's awesome. Again, we're talking about it offline. Is just most Filipinos, we don't really look at school and taking courses that we want to do. It's mostly like what can give me money the quickest to help my family,
Exactly.
right? And I want to ask you if you ever thought of this, like why so many Filipinos do nursing instead of just be a doctor?
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with like the return on investment to your studies. So a lot of universities in the Philippines are private. I'd say majority of people would go to like a private school. Of course, there are public universities as well. Some of them harder to get into than others. But in general, I think how parents see it from their perspective is like you're a liability to the parents until you're able to like have your own source of income. So as you are in college and university, you know, you're studying, they're paying for your whatever, board and lodging, maybe they're paying for your food and transportation costs. So you're a liability to them. So there's a lot of pressure, I think, from the family to finish something quick and give them that return on investment, so to say. If it's nursing, I think nursing became very popular and is becoming more popular again as we see, you know, the demands of the pandemic from the healthcare system around the world. So it is a course that is kind of like sure way that, you know, it's not too hard. You can finish it in like, I think 3 or 4 years.
I
don't
think
know.
so, yeah.
3 or 4 years you finish it, and you have that possibility, actually a big possibility of even getting a job abroad. So I think the nursing sector in the Philippines for some time was too competitive. There are just too many people because someone had heard from somebody that, you know, it's easy and you can get abroad. So like everybody was taking it 10 years ago or so. And then for a time it didn't become popular, and then now it's becoming popular. I'm seeing like advertisements on Facebook, sponsored ads from the German government promoting, you know, getting into healthcare and something. And I also see it, pictures of Filipino nurses, and then advertisement in German. So I think like the future really will be nursing again.
Again.
Yeah.
Because it was like a cycle, right? Like it was nursing, and then it became like seaman, like mariners. And then what's the second one? Now it's chef.
Yeah, chef. Yeah, there's a lot of people. Hospitality chef. Oh, but now that's gonna have a problem, you know, with the pandemic.
Yeah.
So now it goes back to nursing.
Hey, man. I mean, I love it when there are times that I go to like clinics or hospitals and I go and like, yo, this is my people. I'm good.
Oh, yeah. It doesn't happen so often here, but I do know a lot of Filipino nurses in the hospital here. But yeah, I mean, Filipinos are, I'd say, like world renowned for being like good nurses, because I think the hospitality aspect of things are like culturally innate in Filipino people. So, you know, we can handle the clients a lot better than, let's say, people from other countries.
Yeah, I love that you said that you're very hospitable. We take care of each other, you know. So when you graduated, what kind of jobs did you get in the Philippines?
Right. So I think when you graduate from college, you don't really have any like like career guidance. I also didn't know what to do, so I finished and I was like, I don't know what to do. So I just went to a job fair. I got a job in telecom industry. Started working there in like product development, which later became like brand management. Yeah, that was my life for 6 years. So
Did you enjoy it?
I like there's some parts of the work culture that I like, and now that I look back to how my work was in the Philippines, I notice a lot of differences compared to like working here in Germany. And one of the big differences is how you interact with your colleagues. So you treat your colleagues as friends, you treat your colleagues as buddies, especially if you join the company at the same time. These guys are kind of like your friends for life, and some of my closest friends are actually people I had the chance to work with. And during that time, every lunch we spend together. After office, we go for a drink. And then until today, we do online gaming together, even though we all live in different parts some of us live in different parts of the world. But yeah, it's that connection you have with your colleagues because you spend so much time in the office, you have to also do overtime sometimes. Sometimes you're obliged to attend your boss's dinner or something, which sounds really absurd in Germany. Like if I tell my office mates here, like, oh, actually, before I'd be obliged to like go to my boss's dinner or his child's dinner or lunch or whatever in the weekend. But like this is part of the birthday party. But that's part of like the work culture. So I had a really good working relationship with my my bosses back in the Philippines. I know their families. They know my family. They've been to my house. I've been to their house. But here it's kind of unheard of. It is unheard of, right? So yes, I miss that.
Yeah, I miss that too. It's like I love that you said that because in the Philippines, let's say you and I start working together in like one company. In a day, if we get along, we will be best friends. In the end of the day,
for sure,
I'll know your last name. I know where you live, and tomorrow we're going to your house to drink, or maybe my house to drink. Here is like to make friends. It's just like it takes so much time and effort.
And in the office, it's impossible, right? Also there.
For me, actually, most of my friends came from my old previous work.
Ah, okay.
Because that's the easiest for me, right? Like, they're there already. I'm going to try to make a connection, And I don't know what ethnicity your friends are. Most of my friends are like various ethnicity. I have friends from St. Vincent's. There's some from Greece. There's some from whatever else.
Right. I'd say my friends are pretty diverse as well. So I have friends. I had a really close friend who just moved out from the US. I had friends from China, from Panama, Malaysia. But the thing is, I work for a very German company, and a lot of German people try to like put a clear distinction between work and their life. So in the office, I can't really say I have really close friends. We work well together, but once it's 5 p.m., like it's done. Like I've never gone out with them after work for drinks. It's just not part of the culture here. Sometimes
have you ever
I try
asked them?
to. Yeah, I asked. Sometimes they already have some plans, or like, you have to book with them like 1 month in advance because they have plans of like cleaning their apartments, or they have plans of whatever, doing a online board game night with their friends or something. So I think if you want, it's possible, but they're not spontaneous. Like in the Philippines, like you ask them 5 minutes before, what are you doing like after office? And he says like, I'm going back home. It's like, no, you're not coming. You're not going home, but you're coming with me and we're going to drink. Like, and then they'll say, okay. It's like,
we're so willing to cancel everything.
right. It's a term, no? Kaladkarin is the term I'd say in Filipino. Like a lot of Filipinos, you literally can just drag them to your, like kaladkad means like to drag. So you can just literally drag people to your plans. And if you have plans with your friends, like you can drag someone from your office. Like, you don't know my friends, but like, you come with me and you just meet them and let's see.
Yeah. Or sometimes I'll have plans with my other friends and you're like, yeah, bring them over anyway.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
It's not a big deal.
Yeah. I want to ask you about something that I'm very fascinated when I did some research about you. You said you went backpacking in Asia?
Oh, yeah.
Where did you go?
Yeah, so it actually happened when I finished college. And basically what I did was I was looking for, maybe a backpacking trip, maybe doing like volunteer work. And I found this like student organization that facilitates these like volunteer work. So I did this volunteer work in Vietnam for around 3 months, where I gave talks about like cultural diversity. Basically, I introduced to them the Philippines. Vietnam is kind of, a lot of people was still at that time, 10 years ago, very like closed. They didn't really know much about outside world. They just knew about Vietnam. So I'd come there, and also good training for them to hear someone speak in English, because they don't use English that much. So I lived with a Vietnamese host family for 3 months, and my goal was like to help their son also get his English level higher. And then I'd go to different schools, unis, and talk about the Philippines and cultural diversity, to get them interested in like the topics of cultural diversity. So but during that time, doing that volunteer work, I was also doing some backpacking around Southeast Asia. So at that time, there was already Cebu Pacific, like our low cost carrier, low cost flights to Vietnam. So I was able to fly there really cheap. I didn't spend much because I lived with a host family. They'd feed me, and then the organization would take me to like the volunteer work, and back to where the host family. And then the money I had gotten from my graduation, I just used to travel during the weekends or when I had free time. So I was able to go around Vietnam. Almost all of Vietnam I've been able to see.
Wow.
Yeah, and a lot of Vietnamese people, even Vietnamese people I meet here, they're like, "Oh man, you've even been to more of Vietnam than I have." And I'd say I've seen as much of the Philippines as I have Vietnam, and I'm from the Philippines, so it's kind of strange. But yeah, I was fascinated by the culture. It's my first time to really travel abroad. I didn't get the chance to travel a lot when I was a kid, because my mom was always busy, or I was busy with school. So that was the first time I really got to travel, and then that experience made me really realize how big the world actually is. Like, the Philippines, Vietnam was where I went, and I was like 21. And then I just thought to myself, oh, this is only Vietnam. Vietnam is so close. The world is so much bigger. So when I started working, I made it a goal for myself to travel at least twice a year. Maybe because like our passport isn't also that powerful, and I didn't have a lot of money, which meant that the only countries that I could really visit are other countries in Southeast Asia. So I made it like a goal to just go to Cambodia, Laos, Thailand, Malaysia, these kind of countries every time I had the chance.
Did you really like backpack, like in the sense of like the European backpacking, or you just like go to a hotel and then just live the life?
Sometimes I'd backpack, especially when I was traveling around Vietnam. I'd stay in hostels. You live in a dorm with 10 people. Some people are whatever. Some people are snoring so loud. Some people are even having sex. Very, very strange experience. And I was like, that's really my first time traveling. And it's like, holy shit, it's like this. And it's the first time I really, meet a lot of like Western people. You get to meet people from whatever, Canada or the Europe. And it was like an eye opener for me. It's like, oh shit, people actually do this. I did it in Vietnam, and I also did it when I traveled when I was traveling around Thailand, Malaysia, and Cambodia. No, Thailand, Laos, and Cambodia. So
did you learn the language, the Vietnamese language?
I could only say numbers. So basically, I learned enough for me to buy stuff so that they don't trick me with like a foreigner price. Because I can look Vietnamese. So they thought I'm Vietnamese. They speak to me in Vietnamese. I don't respond to them if I don't understand it. But I tell them like the price I'm willing to pay for certain stuff.
Okay. But you live with the family for 3 months. I guess they spoke English to you.
No, actually nobody spoke English except the son. So we just had like, sign language and whatever, translating. I didn't have a smartphone back then. I don't even know how I translated words with him. I don't know, like just body language, I guess.
Books. There's
Books,
no book?
or wait for the son to come back from school and like.
Oh my God.
It was hard. It's hard.
So
yeah.
sometimes you were sitting there and they're staring at you, you're staring at them?
Yeah, and one time the dad got really mad because I went out partying, and I went home at like 12 or 1 and he had to wake up to like open the door. He got really pissed off at me. But he was swearing at me in Vietnamese and I was like, I don't understand what you're saying.
Holy shit, really? Did you ask them that you're going out though?
He never told me. Maybe he told me there was rules, but he told me in Vietnamese, so I didn't know that there were rules.
Did they not think of like, oh, by the way, make sure the son, make sure he understands?
Because when they tell me stuff in Vietnamese, I just nod my head. I don't know, it's just like automatic.
Yeah, I do the same thing here, man. When somebody's speaking French to me and it's so fast, I'm like, yeah, okay, oui.
Yeah.
That's so funny. And then, so how did you end up in Germany?
Right, so one of the close friends I got in Vietnam was a guy from the Netherlands. So, and at that time, he had visited me already in the Philippines twice. So I said, when I save up enough money from working and I have the time, I'm going to take some time off and visit you in Europe. So that was around 2016. And then I decided to visit Europe for a month and visit my friend. Not cheap, very expensive, especially if you're earning pesos. So that's a lot of money. So it was a lot of money. Like also just the visa processing, the flight. I was like, holy shit! Like
how many boxes of pesos did you bring to pay one bottled water?
It's a lot, and then you notice that holy shit, a lot of stuff have value. Like exactly like water. If you go to a restaurant, you can't ask for tap water. No one's gonna give you tap water here. But anyway, so we did a 1-month trip around Europe. I went to, I think it was Belgium, the Netherlands, Germany, Czech Republic, and Prague, and then in Budapest in Hungary. And I was like really amazed at what I saw, like the culture, how people live, how also the beauty of the European Union and just being able to, literally there are no borders. I can cross a border and you'll just see the language change. Maybe sometimes the currency changes, but there's no border guard. There's nothing. Like you can walk across. People are very international people. So when I got back after that 1 month, I thought to myself, what's the best way for me to get to Europe? And at the time, Netherlands was my target because my friend was there.
Okay.
Only because of that. And they speak English. A lot of people speak English in the Netherlands. So that's what makes Netherlands very special. Plus, I had a friend there. So what I did is I started Googling, asking around, what's the easiest way for Filipino people to reach Europe or the Netherlands? And there's actually no easy way. The easiest way is to actually do your master's there. So there was a European higher educational fair in Manila. So that was the first step. I went there. I was like, okay, what can I afford? How much is a program? Are there scholarships? Is there like financial support for foreign students from the Philippines? And there were a couple that said, yeah, we do have this. In the Netherlands, I think there were 2. A lot of them were willing, okay, yeah, we can kind of waive off a big percentage of the tuition.
Oh, sweet.
So I was able to get one of those deals. What I didn't expect was like the living expenses were another issue.
So you got accepted, right? Mm-hmm. Who set up the apartments, the living situation? All you?
Everything.
How did you know to find the apartment though?
Google, man. Luckily enough, like as I mentioned, a lot of people there speak English. So I was able to contact places in advance to look for a place. So what I did was I looked for an apartment for like a transient home for like a month.
Okay.
I said I'll stay in this transient home for a month, and when I'm there, I'll actually do some actual viewings, like apartment viewings. So I did that. I stayed in the transient home. It cost me, I don't know, 450 euros, I think, for a month, which is a lot of money. I was like, holy shit, how am I going to afford?
That's like buying a house in the Philippines. Maybe more.
450 euros? No,
I don't know.
no.
I just made that up. I'm not good with math.
Yeah, but it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money, especially if you're coming from the Philippines and your savings is on Philippine peso. Mm-hmm. But I was able to find, a pretty decent flat in that 1 month that I had to look. But there was a time, I think 2 weeks, that I had to live on someone's floor. My classmate, I had an Indonesian classmate. She had a big place, and there were like 2 or 3 people sleeping on her floor for like a month. or a couple of weeks. So I was one of those guys. But luckily, I was able to find a place, and actually found out that foreign students, well, foreigners in general, if you pay a high amount for a flat, if you're a student, you're actually able to get a percentage of it back from the Dutch government.
Oh, cool.
And I had to find a part-time job to support myself. So I was like washing dishes on Sundays for a restaurant. I was
so
washing
you're
dishes.
allowed to get a job?
You're allowed to work 10 hours a week to student.
So you're washing dishes. What kind of restaurant was it?
It was, the first one was, it was a Dutch pub, actually. It was a pub, so it's easy stuff. So mostly they're just like glasses and stuff. So you're washing a lot of glasses, some plates. Cleaning, closing up.
How was that experience?
It was interesting. I mean, it puts you back to, like, it pulls you back to the surface of Earth. When you feel like you've achieved something in the Philippines, like, you're working in a busy, downtown business district, and then now you have to like wash dishes again. Like, it's a humbling experience. Like,
yep.
But you have to do it to survive. Like, I mean, with the rent I was paying, and also I wanted to kind of travel every now and then, maybe buy some ingredients to make Filipino food at home. So these stuff are not cheap. So, I had to, my money was just enough to pay for like the tuition and a little bit, and maybe like, let's say, I don't know, 6 months of me living there, but not more than that. So I had to like find a way to make it.
I bet, man. Did you ever question your decision of moving to Europe around this time?
No, I think if you have a clear goal and like, oh, this is something temporary, then you just accept it. Like, okay, I have to do this because this will take me to step 2. Like, this is step 1, but I want to get to step 2, and to get to step 2, I need to find a way to support myself for the next 6 months. If not, I live on my friend's floor again. So, you have to kind of think about it.
That's man, resiliency, man. That's one thing Filipinos have,
Again, yeah.
I really admire people. Like, sometimes I'll drive around and I'll see like a woman standing, and she's Filipina because I can smell them. We have the same smell,
Yeah.
And I'm like, I wonder how many jobs she's been to or going to while she's standing there to feed the whole goddamn clan.
Exactly. But again, I guess she has that goal of like, my goal is to feed my whole clan. Therefore, I need to do everything possible. So I think it's all about how you set out to achieve a specific goal you have. So for me, it was how do I finish my studies and get employment and survive the next few months, survive a winter.
I know, but again, this is like I told you before. Like, my brain is like half Filipino, half Canadian. Half
Sure.
Asian thinking, and then half is Canadian thinking. My Canadian thinking is like, how about her? How about her life? How about her happiness?
Right.
I get it. Sometimes that's their happiness, that to help people, but really, is it really to feed your whole clan? Or maybe sometimes she just wants to, I don't know, paraglide.
That's true, man. That's true. That's tough. That's a tough question. Oh, yeah.
Like, for us, for most Filipinos, thankfully I don't have that situation. Like, happiness doesn't even mean anything, or maybe they're just hiding it.
Yeah, this is sad as well, Now that you mention it, I don't know, like, what, like, okay, I know they have a goal, but I don't know, like, themselves, like, what are they actually thinking? Like, what do they actually want to do? Is this what they want to do, or they just want to live in the Philippines and not have to think about carrying their whole family on their shoulders, So
Yeah. And sometimes she's feeding her siblings' kids or sending them to school, even though her siblings, they're able bodies.
Sure.
Anyways, this is one of my pet peeves. Like, stop sending too much money to these people. Just be happy, help, obviously help, but you don't have to carry the whole clan.
Yeah.
Again,
Yeah,
that's my Canadian thinking.
Honestly, I believe, especially when it comes to the Philippines, I believe that one thing that you should maybe help with is definitely like sending your kids to like the education of the younger generation. I think for me, if there was something that I'd spend on, like in terms of helping somebody, it would be that. Obviously, like there will be emergencies, hospital bills that will probably come up that you'd need to help out with. So obviously that's there. But if a lot of the relatives of OFWs, I know this for a fact because you see them. They take advantage of the people
Their
who
kindness.
are living abroad, the kindness that's given to them. So that obviously I don't like.
I hate that too. So let's go back to you. You went to do masters in the Netherlands.
Sure.
How was the school system? How did you find it? Was it more difficult? Was it more challenging?
Right. So I went to a business school in the Netherlands, and it was, let's say it like this, it was challenging in a different way. So I'd say they put a lot of emphasis on research. They put a lot of emphasis in how you write research papers. So that means that having your sources cited properly, stuff that in the Philippines, like, it's also important, but it's not as important as it is here. Here, what's important is they want you to contribute something to like the academic community. But it might have also been because it was a master's program. But what was nice is I studied in a school that's very international. So I had classmates from all over the world, from Africa, from Russia, from South America, and so on and so forth. So that was really a good experience because you get to interact with people from everywhere. And that's something that in the Philippines you don't really have the opportunity to do. Like I studied in a local uni. I worked in a local company. So almost all the time my interactions were with other Filipino people.
Yeah, we're very secluded.
Right. We are an island at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. So how did you end up in Germany?
Right. So this is a cool story. So I finished my master's. I got pretty decent grades. I was still working part-time in the restaurant, but the rest of the time I was using to research companies and to send CVs. So I think I applied for like 100 companies in the Netherlands. I think I got maybe like 5 interviews, and I was like, oh man, this is tough. It's not that easy. So I had a party with a colleague of mine, with a classmate of mine who recently got a job in Amsterdam. So we were out drinking, and then while I was in the pub, I think I was peeing, and on the toilet there was like a job fair poster in front of me. So imagine you're peeing and you're like, oh, there's a job fair in Germany. So I was like, okay, there's a job fair next week. I don't speak German, and it looks like it's an engineering, IT kind of focused job fair. But I'm like, whatever, I don't care. Let's go there, and see what happens. When I got there, I was like, okay, 100 companies, probably won't find anything. And before I left, like a company like next to the exit, they were like looking for a business development manager. So I approached them like, hey, I saw you guys looking for a business development manager. Do you need to speak German? And they said, no, not really, because you'll actually be replacing a guy from the US. So I sent my CV, and then I think I graduated in October. I went to that job fair in November, and then I got a job I got the okay you're in December. But yeah, this is what happened. Like I went to a pub, with your friends.
That's amazing, man.
Go for a pee, and then I got a job.
I mean, I'm not really big on destiny, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
Like that's kind of like destined to happen.
Maybe, yeah.
That's funny, man. So you move from Netherlands, then you move to Germany. Then you have to, like you said, you have to learn German.
Yeah, right.
How is that?
So now I'm like, there are 6 levels, I think, of that's how the European language system works. So there are 6 levels. So right now I'm unofficially on the 4th level. So it's good enough for me to talk to customer service, because most of the time they don't speak English. I go to the doctor, talk to the nurses in German. When I go out, I speak in German. My girlfriend is German, so with her parents I speak in German.
Okay.
But I still struggle to understand 100% of everything. So I'm still in that level where it's okay, but I'm still struggling.
Hey, 4th level, you're there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So
if you can say, hey, where's the toilet?
yeah,
How much is
definitely,
this
yeah.
thing?
Yeah.
You know, you're good. You know, fourth level is pretty decent, dude.
I don't need to be this high. Actually, I already reached the level where it's higher than the requirement for me to get permanent residency. So I think the permanent residency, you need the third level. So I'm a bit higher than that now. I just need to take the exam.
But permanent residency, what's your situation right now talking about that?
Yeah, I have a work permit, and that will So I have a work permit for the next 3 years. Well, so I'm on my 3rd year now, and on my 5th year I can apply for permanent residency.
Oh,
So yeah,
I'm gonna say congratulations because I know you're
not
gonna
yet,
crush
not
it.
yet. Yeah. So I just need to take that exam and then wait for the 5th year, and they just need to see that I've been paying my taxes, and then more or less you get it. So
Okay, in Quebec where I live,
Yeah.
French is so important to speak French. How important is it for the German government for you to speak German? Do they really emphasize on their language?
of course, everything, literally everything, man, everything is in German.
Do they judge you if you don't speak German?
Yes, especially if you lived in the country for a long time and you still don't speak German, they'll judge you.
Yeah.
They say like you speak shit German or something.
You should say like, do you see me? Like I'm not, you know?
But it's their expectation. Like so even like imagine this, and this is one of my pet peeves here in Germany. You go to the foreign office, you go to the Department of Foreign Affairs in the Philippines. You talk to the people there. Some of them don't speak English.
Okay.
You have to speak German with them, and that's their foreign office.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, so that's how much emphasis there is on the language.
Okay. Wow. Is there a lot of Filipinos there in your city?
No. There since the last year, there's more. I think they got like 15 to 20 nurses from the Philippines, our
Yeah.
city.
Maybe
all
they were
live in
peeing
one
and they
building.
saw the poster too.
Could be. Man. So the first time I met another Filipino in my city, funny enough, was actually when I moved here. I found a flat, and I was moving my stuff, and my neighbor came. I thought, okay, some Vietnamese guy or some Chinese guy speaking to me in German, and I'm like, yeah, whatever, man. I don't speak German. Like I'm speaking to him. I'm just like nodding my head, like I don't know what he's saying because I spoke zero German before I came here. So I'm moving my stuff, and then one time I heard music playing from his flat. So I live in a small building which had like 3 tenants, and I could hear his music, and I wasn't sure what language it was, but I thought it was maybe it's like Indonesian. It's like Indonesian or Malaysian guy, and it's not Vietnamese. Until one day I saw his mom come. And then when they were speaking to each other, I realized, they're not speaking Tagalog, which is like, what we would speak, but they were speaking Ilocano.
Wait, how do you know it was Ilocano?
Because I could hear some Tagalog words in it, like
Okay.
so like I think there are some words in Ilocano that's like same as Tagalog. So it's like, So I asked her, "Are you guys from the Philippines?" And then they said, "Oh yeah, we're from Lawag." So it's like, imagine I lived in a building with like three or four tenants, and one of the guys was Filipino. And I was
Another
like,
serendipity, man.
Oh my god! So me and this guy, we're like bros, and he's like one of my closest friends in the city.
That's awesome, man. All right, making friends. You seem okay with it, with quote unquote our people, not with much with the Germans. But how about dating in Europe? Let's talk about that. How challenging was that?
Right. So first thing I did, because when I left the Philippines at that time, I think I was on Tinder for a while. So I went on some dates in the Philippines.
This
Mostly
boy is
with-
getting some action.
Oh damn, son. No, just like normal dates.
Okay.
So that was like in the Philippines. So when I came to Germany, I came to the Netherlands, I just kept the same account. So I tried going out on dates here, but I realized that it's a lot harder here. It's a lot more competitive.
You cannot use your La Salista card anymore.
No, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything here. So Yeah, it was really hard. Like I'd have like one match in whatever in a couple of days. Most of them were Asian. I went out with a lot of. I still went out on dates. Probably like every now and then I'd go out on a date. Mostly Asian girls or like half European, half Asian. So that was my experience. And then yeah, in terms of action, there was not much action, unfortunately, here for me. As I mentioned, like Tinder was very let's say competitive. I think based on my experience, like it was easier for me to meet people like face to face, like in a pub or in a club, more than it was like online dating.
Yeah.
As an Asian, I think
I
as
know.
they have, yeah, I don't know what they think of Asian guys.
I know I read this like, I don't know, a few years ago that the least matches on a dating site for men, ethnicity, are Asian.
Right.
So I like what you were saying. I think they have that, Asian man, small dick mentality.
Maybe. And I think at that time, like the whole K-pop thing didn't really reach here that much. So I don't know if that has changed now, because I've been with my girlfriend for a couple of years now. So I don't know what the landscape is anymore. But, I hear now that with Netflix and all these like Squid Game and all these like K-pop guys, like a lot of girls here are quite interested in Asian guys. I don't know if they can tell the difference
listen to
between
me, dude.
Korean and
Listen to me, dude. I mean, we're okay looking dudes, all right? But we're not K-pop, okay?
I know, man. I know. I know.
Also, by the way, those people, speaking of K-pop, did you know those are slaves?
Yeah, they don't have personal lives, right?
No, they stay in like a one compound. They're not allowed to associate with anyone unless they're with the group or like in that universe. That's why most of them commit suicides.
Shit, man.
And unfortunately, they're spitting out these candy products around the world. Like, oh my God, they're so good looking. They don't even look like that. They were so manufactured. They fix their nose, they fix their eyebrows, and all this stuff. And I find it so dangerous.
Yeah.
Like, because young kids, especially Philippines, man, they're like, oh my God, K-pop. Yo, you guys don't know these guys are fake.
Right.
I'm not saying they're fake personality. I'm saying that it's hard to say because I don't want to judge them because I don't know them, obviously, personally, and why they did what they did, right? But it's hard to say because they're fake. They're putting out this, like, this is what I look like. And it's, I don't know. I don't know what you think about it.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I don't think a lot of them are like happy with like their personal lives, although they have like the fame, the money. But yeah, like you said, it is kind of manufactured. Like the whole rise to fame is manufactured in a way. But this is what the people like, and maybe the expectations also of like Asian men from like women outside of Asia would be as high as what is being portrayed by K-pop. So I'm just thinking this might be like they have like this high expectations that everybody like kind of looks or behaves like them,
I agree with that.
That's the danger.
So you mentioned that you didn't get much action from Tinder. How did you meet your girlfriend?
Yeah, in a pub. So like as I mentioned, like in a club or in a pub, it's a lot easier. I think people there, they go to socialize. Like in the Philippines, if you go to a club or a pub and you talk to the wrong girl, like you'll get into a fight easily,
Yeah. So how was your German then when you met her?
Right. And this is the thing, because I met her in the Netherlands actually. So it was also like serendipitous that I ended up in Germany because I met her in the Netherlands. So she was German, but working there. So there was an event in a pub. I went to her and her friend, just spoke to them like the entire night, and then so yeah, I met her through the pub. I talked to her and her friend, and then we ended up clicking, and then I think I walked her home that night and got her number, and then that was it.
Awesome, man. Happy for you. So when you guys go on dates, who pays for the bill?
Oh, in the beginning, I paid all the time. Even though I was a student, and I was like, holy shit, how much money do I need? I need to ask my boss if I can work some extra hours or something. But eventually, I had to admit to her that I wasn't very financially capable and it wasn't sustainable, like doing this.
Yeah, but is that because of your Filipino upbringing, or is that German culture is like that?
I think in the Netherlands there's a term actually called going Dutch, which means everyone pays for their own stuff. So that's really something. And it happens a lot. In Germany, it's a bit more like the Philippines, where the guy needs to pay, but also it also happens sometimes that you split the bill. But for me, because of my Filipino upbringing, and also because I thought that it's a very competitive environment, I wanted to like pay for it, because like maybe if I don't pay for it and another guy would pay for it, then I lose my chance. So I had this mindset that like, this is a competitive environment. I don't want to lose, man. You go all in, like from the beginning.
I get it. Hey, man, I'm all Dutch all day, man.
But now that we're together, of course, like, okay, we pay for it.
Yeah. Hey, I'm all for equality. If I'm paying for your bills, you should be paying for my bill too, kind of deal,
Yeah.
That's just me. I'm all for equality. So we talk about this offline too, that we didn't really date Pinays. Is that, well, I had the choice because there's a lot of Filipinos here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm obviously on your side, there's not much Filipinos. Do you think if there's a lot of Filipinas, you would have dated a Filipina? Or you just stay away from them because you know how they can get?
I like staying away from them, to be honest. I've had my fair share of like, Filipino relationships, and a lot of them, because the culture is so, obviously it's the same culture, everything's the same, and I just found it maybe a bit boring, a bit like what to expect, because it's so similar. Because you're the same, you're very similar. You have like similar type of friends, similar things you watch on TV. I don't know. And then now, after dating, like when I came here, like obviously I went on dates with other girls, other Asian girls also. So you meet people from everywhere, and you realize that it's pretty. Your life is super interesting. Like you have such a different background that I would not have expected that. So, I like that. So, I don't think I miss dating Filipino girls. And like you said, there are other cons.
Yeah, they're very jealous. Not all of them, obviously. However, it's not really their fault because our culture is very macho, womanizing and all that stuff. So most of them they have trauma from their exes. Oh, my ex or my dad or or my uncle, womanizing. Maybe this guy that I'm with will be womanizing too.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's true. And that's why they're like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, men are the same too, right?
Maybe.
We're very like, most crimes against women in the Philippines are boyfriends or husbands killing. You know what I mean? Like it's so bad there. Did you know that there's a law in the Philippines? By the way, you can check this, but I think this is correct. There's a law in the Philippines. Let's say you're married, okay? Or maybe I think with girlfriend as well. And you come home and you catch them in bed. You can kill them.
Yeah.
Like you have a certain amount of time to kill these people and you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
That's insane.
It's like crime of passion or something. I heard about this.
Yeah.
I heard about this, yeah.
I'm like, what the hell, dude? You can't do that.
It means it happened a lot. That's why they put it there.
I get it, man. So anyways, I want to ask you, can you say you have successfully assimilated into the German society?
No, not yet. I don't think so. Maybe it will take me a couple more years. I think when I'm able to, especially with the language, I think the language is the first part. And second, because of this whole COVID thing, like my experience in Germany is a bit clouded. Like it's not like the real, like a normal person's experience would be like pre-corona. So I think I need to experience it like pre-corona, because I was here for a year before corona happened. So I didn't really have enough time to assimilate, like hang out in the parks, like play basketball with people as often as I would want to, or I don't know, like do activities where you actually meet other people, other German people, socialize with them. So I think maybe in a couple more years, when after the pandemic, then I can say I'm assimilated. Because there's some every now and then there's still times that I get shocked, there's things unexpected would happen that I'm like, oh shit, like this is something that happens here. So I think when you start not seeing, when you're like less caught off guard, then I think that's when you're really like assimilated. I think.
I like that, man. So, would you still consider retiring in the Philippines?
Oh, definitely. Oh, definitely. I think that's the whole challenge in the Philippines. The challenge in the Philippines is, how do you become rich and can live a comfortable life there?
So, I think we're getting there. Actually, we're there. I want to ask you, you've achieved so many, incredible things. But what is the thing that you're proudest so far and why?
Oh, what I'm proudest so far. I think I'm most proud of myself for making that decision, committing to actually going here. Not coming here. I think that's easy, but like making that decision, like, okay, I want to do this, and to do this I have to sacrifice all my savings. I have to borrow money from my uncle, and I have to work in a restaurant even though I don't really want to do that anymore. But like putting all of this together and actually just saying, no, I want to, and this is the process. I have to do that in order for me to get here. And just making that decision that I'm done with working in Makati. I don't want to work in Makati anymore because of whatever, for many reasons, maybe the traffic or the work culture, you're finished with it. So just, and a lot of people, maybe they have the opportunity, maybe they're even more people who are more well off with me or more qualified to get jobs abroad, could easily do it compared to what I had to go through. But a lot of them, they don't have that that drive to kind of like, or that, just say like, I want to do that and I'll drop everything and do it.
Awesome. Again, Lawin, thank you for coming on the podcast. I really do appreciate it.
Hey Ron, thanks for having me.
This was really fun. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Again, Lawin, thank you for coming on the podcast. I really do appreciate it. Thank you, listeners, for listening. This is Aaron Deliosa for An Immigrant's Life. I'll see you guys later.